Learning Zili Nishmas Etta Ahuva Basakam Masachas Bechoros Perik Beis Mishna Tes Yotzei Doifen v'Haba Acharov. If a animal has a baby not through the rechem but through taken out of the animal a different way, v'Haba Acharov, and after that another baby is born. So Reb Tarfon Omer Shneim, both the Yotzei Doifen and the child that's born afterwards are a suffix bechar, and therefore yiro ad sheyistavu v'yechel b'mum and the bailam. You have to wait until they get a mum, and the bailam could eat it once it has a mum. However, Kiva omer shneim ein a bechar. Kiva says that neither of them are bechar. Vaday, they're not a bechar. Harishim mishum she'enoi pete rechem. The first one wasn't a pete rechem; it was a yotzei doifen. V'hasheni and the ba acharav mishum shekad ma'achar, because it had a different baby that was born before it. The Gemara explains that Rabbi Akiva held pshitale bechar l'davar echad loyavi bechar, that it's not a bechar unless it's born derech rechem, not yotzei doifen, and that it's the first baby that nothing was born before it. However, Rabbi Tarfon was misupik misafkalei bechar l'davar echad yavi bechar ilayavi bechar. So he was misupik that maybe the fact that it was the first one, even though it wasn't derech rechem, it's a bechar, and therefore the yotzei doifen is a suffix bechar. And he was also masufik haba acharav, that if it's the first one that comes out of the rechem, maybe that's a bechar, and therefore on both of them he held yiro ad sheyistavu v'yochel b'muman l'baylam. Perek Gimel Mishna Aleph halikech behema min adnachi. If someone buys an animal from a guy ve'eni yaduim bikra imloi bikra, we don't know if it gave birth yet, and therefore the child that it has by you first, does it have a din of a bechar? If it's a behema tahira, you would have the suffix, and by petarechem you would have a suffix. Rabbi Shmuel, by petachamar, by behema tamei, you would have the halacha of petachamar. So the Mishnah says a machlokes. Rabbi Shmuel says Eiz bas shnosa vaday lekoyin mikan ve'elach suffix. Rachel bas shtayim vaday lekoyin mikan ve'elach suffix. Parvachamar b'noi shalish vaday lekoyin mikan ve'elach suffix. He says that by a goat after 1 year, by a sheep after 2 years, and by a parah and a chamar after 3 years, it's a suffix that maybe they had already given birth. However, less than that amount, it's vaday likayin. Rashi explains because koydem l'chein lo yolda. Before that amount of time, by each one, it for sure did not give birth yet, and therefore it goes to the kayin. Taisvis in Avodah Zarah Daf Chav Daled Amud Beis says that today the times have changed, and now a para is yeledes before 3 years old. But in the time of the Mishnayos, a para would never give birth before 3 years old, according to Rabbi Shmuel. Amar Rabbi Kiva says, Ilu bevlad belvad behema nefteres hayikid v'recha. You're right, it didn't give birth to a vlad, but there's still a suffix within this amount of time. The hainu, by a goat before 1 year, by a sheep before 2 years, by a parah and chamar less than 3 years, there's still a suffix that maybe it's not a bechar. Why? Because simin vlad behema daka tinif. Because even if a tinif comes out, which the Gemara has a machlokes what it is, the second shah in the Gemara is that it's avavui shel dam, and even that the Gemara says you have to show it to a roya chacham, and he could tell you if it's a simin that it was a nefel. Ubegasa shilya, and by a gasa, the sack that the animal is in could have come out. Ubiisha shvir v'shilya, and by a woman, the shvir, which is the dam nikrash or chatichas basar, or also the shilya, the sack, would be considered a miscarriage. So therefore, Rabbi Akiva held that since there's a tzad by a behema taka that there was a tinif and we didn't realize, so even before this amount of time, it's always a suffix and it doesn't go to the kayin. The Mishnah says, Zeh klal, this is the rule that you should take with it. The Taisis Yanta speaks out that over here the Zeh klal is not being meisef anything. Rabbi Akiva does say that it's being meisef. If you know for sure that it gave birth, then the kohen doesn't get anything, because the one that it gives birth now doesn't go. It's not the bechar. Kol shaloi bikra. If you know that it never gave birth, then harei el kohen. Then it does go to the kohen. In suffix, if you're not sure, yechel b'mumay l'baylam. And the tzivah asks on the words, the first step of the cloud, kol sheyadua shebikra in kan l'kohen klum. The It should have said more, because even in the case of suffix, it's ein kan l'koyin klum. The koyin doesn't get anything. It's yechum l'maylam. It should have said that it's mutter begiz of avodah that has no din of even a suffix bechar. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov says, behema gasa sheshafa chareres dam. If a behema gasa gave birth to like a charara, a big clump of blood, of dam, harezu tikaver v'niftera min abachayra. The Gemara explains that there's no din tumas nevela on this piece because it's batal beroiv. I know the bus in nevela is batal beroiv of all the other stuff that's coming out with this in this chararas dam. However, if not for that, it would have a din like a vlad and a bus in nevela, and therefore it's pater min a. And that's the reason why we bury it, is to let you know that it's pater min a. But als tumma be'etzem, it doesn't have any tumas nevela on this. We'll speak out one Gemara. In the beginning of the Mishnah, Bishmal's shita was that within 3 years, let's say for a para, or 2 for a rachel, or 1 for an aiz, it's vaday l'koyin, because koydem l'chein l'yolda for sure didn't give a birth before then. Afterwards, he says it's a suffix. For the Gemara, why is it only a suffix? Why don't we say that roiv, that it gave birth? So the Gemara says either our Mishnah is going like Remeir, the chashinan lemiyuta, and therefore it's a suffix, or even according to Rabbanan, since it's a ruba de tali b'maisa, the animal getting pregnant, so we don't say roiv.